UFC Fight Night Vegas 57, Tsarukyan versus Gamrot takes place this weekend, and I'm going to go through the entire card, starting with the early prelims, ending with the main events, giving my prediction and breakdown for every single fight on the card, and what an amazing card this is, with fun fights top to bottom. Let's start straight away with the early prelim opener of Vanessa Demopulous versus Jihn Frey. Looking forward to this matchup, because Vanessa Demopulous has built a little bit of a name for herself in the women's strawweight division. She had an interview with Joe Rogan that went quite viral, and now she's got a little bit of name value, and I do believe she's going to pull this one off as the underdog against Jihn Frey, because Jihn Frey lost a fight to Kay Hansen. I shouldn't have to continue breaking down this fight after saying that, but in hindsight, after seeing where Kay Hansen's career went, losing to Kay Hansen is not a good look whatsoever. At least Vanessa Demopulous lost to somewhat okay opponents in JJ Aldridge, and that was up at flyweight as well. Now she's down at strawweight. She lost to Lupita Godinez as well. Corey McKenna, not the best loss to have, don't get me wrong, but you know what? She's still coming into her career. She didn't have many fights whatsoever. She's now 7-4, and she's the younger girl here out of the two of them, because Jihn Frey is at a whopping 37 years of age for a women's MMA fighter. So I'm going to go with Vanessa Demopulous getting this one done by decision win, winning a couple of the scrambles. She went to a majority decision loss to Lupita Godinez, and Lupita Godinez is looking amazing right now, so I'm going to trust in Vanessa Demopulous over some girl who lost to Kay Hansen and beat Ashley Yoder. Yeah, sure, but Ashley Yoder is terrible. So I don't really know how to rate these wins. Sure, she beat Gloria DePaula, but Gloria DePaula just lost as well, and she only won that one because she got a couple of takedowns and submission attempts in some of those rounds as well. So I'm going to side with Vanessa Demopulous getting this one done, coming into her own and pulling off the upset immediately. Moving on, up the card, Brian Kelleher versus Mario Bautista. Also, before I even get into this second matchup, Jihn Frey is a massive favourite, and I have no idea why. It's like a 50-50. I'm leaning towards Vanessa Demopulous. She's a massive underdog, though. What are they seeing in Jihn Frey? I have no idea. Moving on, though. Brian Kelleher versus Mario Bautista. I'm going to go with Mario Bautista here over Brian Kelleher. I like Brian Kelleher. Boom Boom has been around for a very long time. He's had a couple of good wins in his career. He's always lost when he takes that step up in competition. If you beat Brian Kelleher, you're somewhat talented, but I feel as though recently, and tell me if I'm wrong, Brian Kelleher's looking old and slow, man. He is looking old and slow in his career. Like, he had a couple of good fights in 2017. He won 2 of them, lost to Marlon Vera. No shame in losing to Marlon Vera, though. Who cares? It's Marlon Vera. He's now racing towards the top 5 of the bantamweight division. He then lost to Montel. He lost to Montel Jackson. Got submitted there. Montel Jackson's a very good prospect at bantamweight. He's very inactive, so we don't hear much from him, but oh well. Lost to John Lineker as well. That's not too bad. He's a champion at 1FC right now, but he beats all of the bottom feeder guys. In Ray Rodriguez, he beat Hunter Azure in a good performance there, in like a comeback KO win. Hunter Azure was really beating him up in that first round, though. He's a tough guy who can find a win when he needs to, but it seems like when he takes that jump up in competition, it just doesn't really work out for him, and I feel as though Mario Bautista has good grappling. It's not like he gets exposed in the grappling exchanges. I don't see Kelleher exposing him there either, and I don't see Kelleher really being able to do too much on the feet. Sure, he could find a KO, but he's not as explosive as Trevin Jones. He's slowing down more and more in his fights recently. He's 35 years of age. Mario Bautista, 28. I think he's going to be making some rapid improvements. He's training with Sean O'Malley, who I know people like to hate on, but he's a very, very good bantamweight prospect himself, moving up towards the top 10 right now to take on Pedro Munoz. So he's got a good training partner for this matchup. Not specifically for this matchup of Brian Kelleher, but he's training around really good bantamweight guys. Casey Kenny, Kyler Phillips, Sean O'Malley. Really good bantamweight talent that he's training with on a regular basis. You're going to improve as a young guy around that level of guys in the bantamweight division. So I'm going to go with Mario Bautista, showing some improvements and winning this one by like 3rd round TKO, something along those lines. Moving on. Up the card, JP Buys versus Cody Durden. I'm going to go with Cody Durden. I'm sorry, JP Buys. Okay, I know it must have hurt you watching Roman Dolidze win, because that seems to be all Roman Dolidze does, especially when it comes to things around your life. Okay? Dolidze's just a winner, man. And I'm feeling bad for JP Buys, because I know people like, Cody Durden lost to Mohammed Makayev. He got flying kneed, rocked, caught in a guillotine and finished after that. But Mohammed Makayev is a really talented prospect on the come up in that division. JP Buys did lose when he moved up to take on Montel Jackson at bantamweight on short notice. I don't know why he moved up to take him on. Really silly decision making in my opinion. He got smoked by Bruno Silva as well, with a pretty easy win for Bruno Silva, rocked him multiple times. Sure, JP Buys could be making some improvements here, and honestly, he is going to probably be training harder than ever right now because of what's been going on in his life. So he's going to come in there looking for a big win. But I just don't trust his cardio, man. I really don't trust his cardio. He seems to have a really good start to some of the rounds, and then things start to slow down. And Cody Durden, even though people don't really like him, again, Cody Durden is a guy who had like a good first round. He beat Aori Chweleng, who's very good himself, just coming off a big KO win over Cameron Else. Not the best of opponents, but still, he's not like a terrible fighter himself. Had a great scrap with Jeff Molina as well. But Cody Durden had a really good first round of control against a guy like Chris Gutierrez up at bantamweight and just dominated that first round with the back takes, the scrambles. So I don't see him being out-scrambled or dominated in the grappling early, and I think that's JP Buys' only chance. So I'm going to go with Cody Durden losing the first round 10-9, but starting to come onto the fight later on, round 2 and 3, start finding his own takedowns, start getting control time himself, and I'm going to go against JP Buys. However, he is a good underdog because he's dangerous, explosive, he's a wicked athlete, but I think Cody Durden is going to grind out in that grueling pace that he has and used against Aori Chweleng and get JP Buys down and out-scramble him in the last 2 rounds for a decision win, 29-28. Moving on. Up the card, Raulian Paiva versus Sergey Morozov. This one's interesting. Raulian Paiva looks good in some matchups, but then Sean O'Malley just makes him look absolutely terrible, and it's really hard to go with him after seeing that. And Sergey Morozov took a lot of damage against Douglas Silva de Andrade as well, so I'm not really sure what I want to do with this one. And the fact that I'm not really sure, and I haven't been sure, and it's kind of a 50-50 matchup, and I'm looking at the odds, and I'm seeing the fact that Raulian Paiva's an underdog here with a reach advantage, and now he's more accustomed to the bantamweight division. It's a tough one, man, because Morozov did beat Khalid Taha and looked amazing in that matchup as well. I'm going to stay... I don't know, man. This is a really tough matchup to break down, in my opinion. This is the toughest fight on the card to predict. But Raulian Paiva, the grappling is going to be a bit of a problem early on, at least with Sergey Morozov. Douglas Silva de Andrade has only lost to really good guys in that division as well. So I'm not going to really hold that against him too much. I am going to go with Sergey Morozov here. Sure, he took a lot of damage back in February. Took a lot of damage in that fight, but Raulian Paiva took a lot of damage in his fight as well. That was a bit longer ago, though. He is a young guy himself. He has room to improve. But Raulian Paiva just has never shown anything crazy in his career to watch out for. He looks good on the feet here and there at times. I mean, he arguably should have beaten Kai Kara-France way back when in that flyweight division, but I think Sergey Morozov's going to be a little bit too muscle-bound, get some takedowns early, and start controlling it that way. And I'm gonna go with Sergey Morozov getting this one done. And I think he's going to get it done by finish as well over Raulian Paiva. I don't trust Raulian here. I really don't. He hasn't got the best of wins in his career. His one close loss that could have been a win to Kai Kara-France is kind of the saving grace of his career. Sergey Morozov's been taking on really good opponents. In hindsight, he took Umar to the second round, I guess, and had some scrambles with him, a couple of Granby rolls and stuff like that. So I think he can use grappling here, find his way into the fight using it. I guess it will take Raulian Paiva a massive improvement for him to get the win over Sergey Morozov here, and maybe that's what people are picking based on. He's going to improve, he's going to look better, he's a young guy. I just don't like to do that when it comes to picking an underdog. So I'm going to go with Sergey Morozov getting this one done with a vengeance after his last loss to Douglas Silva de Andrade, and getting into a scrap with Paiva and maybe finishing him in the second round. Moving on, up the card, Shayilan versus TJ Brown. I'm going to go with TJ Brown here. Big featherweight. Shayilan not so big, but he's a strong, muscled up guy for that division. TJ Brown's got a little bit of reach to work with here in this matchup. And Shayilan, he's beat some opponents. He has some wins in the UFC. He has wins over guys like Sean Soriano, which just aren't the best of wins. if we're being honest, and he had to grind out that one. You know, he lost very clearly to Joshua Kalibau, had a couple of takedowns, but couldn't keep him down whatsoever. And his level of opponents that he's taken on just aren't the best, you know? So I'm not really going to trust in Shayilan here. Nuerdanbieke against TJ Brown. TJ Brown's main sparring partner and main training partner is Bryce Mitchell, which is really good for this matchup if you're taking on a grappler. And Bryce Mitchell, I'd imagine he's sort of healed up after the Barboza fight. He didn't really take much damage there whatsoever, and he's sort of looking to come back soon himself. So he's probably in the gym preparing TJ Brown for this matchup. So I think he's got really good grappling training. And I think he's going to get this one done over Shayilan in the last 2 rounds. Maybe Shayilan will try so hard to get the takedowns early that TJ Brown will start to stuff him easier and easier. And Shayilan will start to slow down more and more. And TJ Brown will start picking up the pace and landing on the 2nd and 3rd round of this matchup. So I'm going to go with 2nd and 3rd round win for TJ Brown. 29-28 unanimous decision. Maybe a split. It's going to be close. Moving on. Up the card. Carlos Ulberg versus Tafon and Nchukwi. I'm going to go with Tafon and Nchukwi. Another underdog. I'm picking a few underdogs here. I'm going to go with Tafon and Nchukwi against Carlos Ulberg. Carlos Ulberg's good. He's technical. 31, like, he's not a young guy, really, when you think about it. Like, a lot of these CKB guys that you hear coming up, like, they've already had a really long career. So, I guess we could be looking at maybe some improvements in his grappling across time, but he's already had a kickboxing career. You know what I mean? I think he was king of the ring or something like that over at kickboxing a couple of times in New Zealand. So I feel like we're not going to see many improvements in the striking of Carlos Ulberg. And Tafon and Nchukwi is a tough tank of a man, 27 years of age. If anyone's going to be making the improvements, it's him. He was looking really good against Azamat Murzakanov. Strong, powerful, technical as well before he got hit with that flying knee in the 3rd round. Like, if he doesn't get hit with that flying knee, that was like a Hail Mary for Azamat. He was slowing down, he was gassing out, Tafon was getting the better of him, and he landed that flying knee and put him away. Like, Azamat's supposed to be a massively great prospect coming into that light heavyweight division, and Azamat is, and Tafon nearly spoiled the party. So I'm going to trust in Tafon and Nchukwi. Looked great against Mike Rodriguez, beat him around all over the place. Lost to Park Yun-yong in an extremely close matchup, but that was down at middleweight. I think he's better at light heavyweight, and Park Yun-yong, he was taking it to Gregory Rodriguez before getting clipped, so that looks pretty good in hindsight as well, coming off a win right now too against Eric Anders. So I'm going to go with Tafon and Nchukwi, being a tank in the light heavyweight division, cruising forward, being more of a technical striker than Fabio Cherant. Cherant had some moments where he would knock Ulberg off balance and stuff like that, but I think Tafon and Nchukwi's going to make Ulberg pay. He's going to be kicking with him, coming forward way more educatedly than Fabio Cherant did. And in all honesty, Fabio Cherant accepted defeat in that matchup. I don't see Tafon and Nchukwi doing that. I think he's going to come in hungry for a win, and I think he's going to put it on Ulberg and maybe get a KO in the 3rd round. Or the 2nd round. We'll see how it goes for Tafon and Nchukwi. But I'm going to side with him. Ulberg just doesn't really impress me. And his toughness doesn't impress me either. A little bit too dainty of a guy for the sport of martial arts. And I'm going to go with Tafon and Nchukwi with an upset win. Moving on. Up the card. Chris Curtis versus Rodolfo Vieira. I'm siding with Chris Curtis. I'm done going against him. Now, normally, when I go against someone and then finally decide to pick them, I end up being wrong. Just a warning, guys. It happened with Glover. I think it happened with Usman at some points. No, Usman never lost, so it never happened with Usman. But it happened with a lot of guys where they win a lot, I pick them, and then all of a sudden they lose. Because I've been picking against them for so long. But I'm going to go with Chris Curtis against Rodolfo Vieira. I picked against him long enough. He's 34. It's not like Rodolfo Vieira is a young guy himself, 32. This is Chris Curtis' big moment in his life to start making some real money for himself. He beat Brendan Allen and finished him, and Brendan Allen is a guy who's coming off wins right now, so that's a good win for Chris Curtis to have. He's got good sparring partners. Sean Strickland, I know people don't really like Sean Strickland sparring, but over there in those gyms, you're going to have some really good sparring partners coming in and out of those doors every single day. He's dealt with grapplers. He's looked good against grapplers. He beat Phil Hawes, which is now looking like a great win as well. I know he was taking some damage early on, but he stepped up on short notice and slept Phil Hawes, which is a really good win. So I can see Rodolfo Vieira, who didn't really impress me in his last matchup, because Rodolfo Vieira took Dustin Stoltzfus, I believe, to the 3rd round. And that just don't really sit too well with me, man. Dustin Stoltzfus was doing really good on the feet in that fight, landing a lot of shots. And Vieira couldn't even keep him down. Got a submission in the third by taking the back standing. And Stoltzfus was arguably, like, doing enough to win. Especially, like, it started steering the other way from Vieira because he was landing some really good jabs and stuff like that. But Dustin Stoltzfus was landing some good shots of his own, outlanding Rodolfo Vieira in that fight. That's Dustin Stoltzfus. Chris Curtis, you're giving him those moments to land 67 significant strikes on you throughout a fight that doesn't even go to a distance, ends in the third round. We're about 2 minutes in. I think that Chris Curtis is going to take advantage of those shots that are being landed. And I think he's going to put Rodolfo Vieira out in the second round. KO for Chris Curtis. He gets this one done against Rodolfo Vieira. I like his chances here. Plus, he's got a reach advantage, which isn't usual for him because he's normally quite a small middleweight. But he's packed up. He's looking bigger for middleweight. He looked bigger against Brendan Allen than he did against Phil Hawes. So he's established here now. And I think he's got enough experience not to get subbed by Vieira. And I think he'll find that chin and put him away. Moving on up the card, Nathan Menes versus Umar Nurmagomedov. I'm going to go with Umar Nurmagomedov winning this one. I trust him. I trust Umar here. It's a tough matchup, though. This is a tough one. So if Umar wins this one, like, it's just another affirmation of what people assume about Umar Nurmagomedov. Umar Nurmagomedov is likely going to be a top contender at some point in his career moving forward. It's just when is that going to happen? 26 years of age, showing amazing career moves already. Like, he's had a good win over Brian Kelleher, good win over Sergey Morozov, and he makes it look easy as well, which is just, like, it's not just that he's beating these low-level guys, but he's making them look like low-level guys, which is impressive. He also has really good wins on the regional scene. Like, he's the opposite of Khabib in that way. Khabib, like, really padded his record and was groomed to be a world champion, essentially. Handed 3 wins. But Umar Nurmagomedov really went through some real tough guys. He beat Sadyakub Kakramanov, who's also a good bantamweight prospect coming up. He has really good wins on the regional scene, so it's not like this is his first big test of his career. Like, he's been tested at the lower level before, and now he's got used to the UFC environment. I'm not going to go with Nate Menes. He kind of fluked his last win over Tony Gravely, if I do say so myself. He's got good grappling, so I could see him stuffing a couple of takedowns and finding his way back up to his feet and stuff like that. Like, he beat Luke Sanders by submission. He has got good grappling, but I just don't think it's going to be good enough to deal with Umar Nurmagomedov. So I think he's going to give up some positions, survive some positions, but use a lot of energy to do so. And he's going to start slowing down on the feet. And I could even see Umar Nurmagomedov hurting him on the feet and then going for a submission. So I'm going to say another second round finish. I think it's going to be the night of second round finishes here. And I'm going to see Umar Nurmagomedov land some big shots on the feet in round 2. Hurt Nathan Menes on the feet, and then Nathan Menes might shoot a bad takedown or end up being knocked down in the first place, and then Umar takes the back, sinks in the choke. Rear naked choke in the second round for Umar Nurmagomedov is what I'm going to go with. But I don't think he just mauls Nathan Menes on the ground. I think he's going to hurt him on the feet and then capitalize and find that submission. Umar Nurmagomedov gets this one done. Nate Menes is good, just not good enough. He got saved by the bell against Tony Gravely, you know what I mean? Like, it's worrying to see. Tony Gravely's good, but this is Umar Nurmagomedov, like a different level of hype behind a prospect. Like, Nathan Menes barely survived, saved by the bell in the first round, came back to land a good shot on an over-aggressive Tony Gravely in the second. I'm going to go with Umar Nurmagomedov getting this one done, but Nate Menes is dangerous, and that's why he's taking this matchup, because he believes in himself. But that might not be enough. Moving on, Thiago Moises versus Christos Giagos. Yeah, Thiago Moises, good for him. A nice easy matchup for him. Maybe I'm jinxing this right now, but, you know, good for him is all I'm going to say. I don't know why Christos Giagos keeps getting these matchups. Maybe because he says yes, and good for him, himself, because you say yes, you're going to get these opportunities, but, yeah, he hasn't really beaten anyone good. Like, he beat Carlton Minus, who eventually got minused from the UFC. He beat Sean Soriano. Don't really care about that. He beat Damir Hadzovic. Low-level guys, you know, really low-level guys. Mizuto Hirota. I just don't really like these wins. And then, like, in between all of these fights that he's winning against the absolute bottom-of-the-barrel opponents, he gets Charles Oliveira, Andrakar Close, Arman Tsarukyan, Thiago Moises. Like, it's just like, there's no steady climb for him. He goes from bottom feeders to really good prospects. To bottom feeders to really good prospects. Like, it's just, I feel like he's going to lose this one comfortably. Thiago Moises lands some good shots on the feet, finds a takedown, pulls for the leg, and gets like a heel hook finish in the first round. He has a really nice one of that. He likes to pull it as well. He did that against Michael Johnson, who's coming back in form right now himself. So I'm going to go with Thiago Moises finding a heel hook in the second round or the third. Something along those lines. Maybe they scrap for a bit in the first two, but Moises finds his moment in the third to get a submission win. So I'm going to go with a late rounds submission win for Thiago Moises. I just don't think Christos Giagos is that good. He's a tough guy, but he got dealt with by Tsarukyan pretty easily. I just don't think he's going to be able to rely on grappling to win. So he's going to be stuck on the feet. He doesn't really have an advantage there. So it's just giving more options for Thiago Moises of whether he wants to keep it standing or shoot a takedown and work his grappling. I'm going to go with Thiago Moises getting this one done by finish. Moving on. Up the card, Josh Parisian versus Alan Baudot. I'm going to go with Alan Baudot. I'm going to go with him by decision, 30-27, something along those lines. Josh Parisian is just a disgraceful human. In my opinion, Alan Baudot at least is in shape. You know, he takes his career seriously. Majority of people are picking him here. I think it's even odds for that matchup as well. Yeah, they're evens. Majority of people are going with him, and I do agree. It's just a lot easier to rely on him winning this one. I mean, he didn't look bad against Parker Porter, and it's horrible that we even have to say that. He arguably could have won against Parker Porter. He lost to Rodrigo Nascimento, but it's like that got overturned because Rodrigo was on roids. But these heavyweights are so difficult to predict because he trains at a good gym. Cyril Gane, like, he's going to make improvements. He's not like over the hill. Like 34 is reasonable for a heavyweight. Josh Parisian, you know, loses to Dontel Mays, gets dominated there with the grappling. I think Alan Baudot could go first with the grappling and make that happen as well. Lost to Parker Porter himself, but again, that was a very close fight between those two. It's just, it's tough, man. Rook Martinez beat him. Chad Johnson, like, he beat Rook Martinez in a very close fight. Arguably could have gone Rook Martinez's way for working him against a cage with total strikes and stuff like that. He beat Chad Johnson, who wasn't really a big guy for the division whatsoever, but was somewhat athletic. I just think Alan Baudot is very patient on the feet, very tricky on the feet. I think he'll be able to find his takedowns where he needs them and pick apart Josh Parisian on the feet at range for 3 rounds, 30-27, maybe a 29-28 in there somewhere. Alan Baudot gets this one done. Moving on to the co-main event. Neil Magny versus Shavkat Rakhmonov. I am going to go with Shavkat Rakhmonov over Neil Magny. Sorry, Neil Magny. You're serving your purpose again. I respect you for constantly taking these matchups that you know are not in your favor whatsoever. But Shavkat Rakhmonov, I believe, is going to go out there. And if Max Griffin can drop Neil Magny in the first and arguably win the fight anyway, Max Griffin is okay as a fighter, but he's nothing special. Shavkat Rakhmonov is good as a fighter and something special for sure. So I do believe that he's going to go out there, land some big shots in the first round on Neil Magny, who just doesn't really know how to use his reach too well, finds himself in a lot of danger a lot of times. Like, if Max Griffin in the first round is catching you with a straight shot and putting you down and rocking you and hurting you and almost finishing you in the first round, I think I'm going to trust in Shavkat to take advantage of dropping you and then finish you afterwards. And I don't think he's going to get out-grappled like Max Griffin was. Max Griffin isn't a grappler. He's been out-grappled a lot of times in his career. It's been his main problem in his entire career. So that was obviously going to happen if Neil Magny tried to grapple him. Whereas with Shavkat, I don't see Neil Magny being able to out-grapple him. So there's nowhere to escape for Neil Magny. He's stuck on the feet with Shavkat. And with the amount of damage he's taken in his career, the amount of times he's been finished, I just don't trust Neil Magny to win this one. He loses to Chiesa, loses to Ponzinibbio, loses to RDA, loses to Lorenz Larkin, to Maya. Like, he loses to all of the guys that need a jump up. And this is just another guy that needs a jump up. And I think it's going to go bad for him. Sure, he did beat Jeff Neal. So he's just a bit of hit and miss, Neil Magny, a lot of times. And he whooped Robbie Lawler, but this is different. Tall, rangy guy. I think Magny isn't going to be used to that. Sure, you could say the same for Shavkat, but I think he's the guy with the speed difference, the explosivity difference as well. So I think it's going to be up for Magny to adjust rather than Shavkat to adjust because of how quick and powerful Shavkat's going to be in that first round. And I'm going to trust on Shavkat either winning a decision or brutally finishing Magny over Magny grinding out a really close win, which is what he's going to have to do here. So I'm going to go with Shavkat. getting a finish in the first round, punch straight on the chin, chop up the legs early maybe, and then land a big shot on the jaw, put down Magny, and then maybe get a submission win with a Darce choke, a back take to rear naked, maybe a guillotine or something along those lines. Like I can just see Shavkat getting this one done. Really long arms, gonna catch Magny, and then take advantage with a submission, and I reckon he gets it done. I'll say Darce. 2 Darce chokes in co-main events in a row. First Kevin Holland, now Shavkat Rakhmonov. I reckon he gets it done. Moving on to the main event, Arman Tsarukyan versus Mateusz Gamrot. Arman Tsarukyan is really good, and he has always been really good. I know a lot of people have only just sort of came on to Arman Tsarukyan like, wow, he's actually pretty good. I know I picked Joel Alvarez to beat him, but I was just thinking Joel Alvarez is massive. He's powerful. This is the first big moment in Arman's career. He could get caught. You know what I'm saying? So I went with Joel Alvarez as a massive underdog. That didn't go my way. He took Joel Alvarez off of his feet with a leg kick, and then all of a sudden he's on Joel Alvarez and he's mauling him on the ground like he's nothing to him whatsoever. Arman came out there with vengeance. He's massively improved, but I always knew he was a prospect. I picked him to beat Makhachev in his debut fight on like not a full camp, and he came in there and nearly did it. Nearly beat Makhachev. And not nearly beat Makhachev by dropping him in one of the rounds or having a close submission attempt. He nearly outdid Makhachev across a decision. And that's even crazier. So I'm going to go with Arman Tsarukyan here over Mateusz Gamrot. I like Mateusz Gamrot, but in my opinion, there's a night and day difference between the two of these guys' performances that they've had in the UFC so far. Arman Tsarukyan is making it look easy. And Mateusz Gamrot, I watched his fight against Scott Holtzman. He gets caught a couple of times. He can't really keep Scott Holtzman down. And Scott Holtzman's good and massive for the division. But, you know, Jeremy Stevens moving up, gets Kimura. Really good win from him there. And he does have the ability, Gamrot, to just make things happen because he's weirdly athletic and he's very good. But against Thiago Ferreira, dude, he was getting beaten, and then he started to slow down a lot. He couldn't really keep control with his takedowns. So he got the takedowns, but didn't really do anything with them. And then he landed a knee to the rib and broke the lower rib of Thiago Ferreira and got it done that way. I think he's more explosive than Arman Tsarukyan, so I think he's got more of a chance at a finish. But Arman's just more consistently good. And seeing this is a 5-round main event, I don't see a finish early on from either of them. And I think if it does go into those later rounds, Arman's going to really take over. So maybe I'll see a Mateusz Gamrot having some big moments early, landing a couple of good shots, winning the grappling exchanges early on, scrambling out of Arman's takedown attempt and ending up on top and landing a few shots and then separating and then getting his own takedown, and Arman works his way back up. And I think it's going to be an entertaining first 2 rounds, but then in round 3, 4, and 5... where I've seen Gamrot slow down now against Thiago Ferreira quite a bit. He really started to slow down in that fight. I think I'm going to pick him to slow down against Arman Tsarukyan. Because again, they weren't preparing for 5 rounds. They've had some time to now. But this isn't the most ideal 5-round scenario for either of them. Okay? But Arman doesn't slow down. He looks great in the last rounds. Some of his later rounds are his best rounds that he has. So I'm going to go with Arman Tsarukyan winning this fight as it goes on. He's very good. So is Mateusz Gamrot. I mean, he arguably should have beaten Garam Kutateledze anyway, and that's aged pretty well because Garam put up a hell of a fight against Damir Ismagulov. But there's just a difference. There's a difference in the way these two are looking, and Arman's showing no weakness. Destroyed Christos Giagos easily, destroyed Joel Alvarez easily as well, beat Matt Frivola across 3 rounds and just mauled him and did not slow down whatsoever, beat Davy Ramos across 3 rounds and just mauled him and didn't slow down whatsoever, had a great 3rd round there. I think he's just got much more consistent cardio, and he's better in every round compared to maybe Gamrot only being good in the first 2. So I'm going to go against Gamrot. I'm picking Arman Tsarukyan here. Thank you guys for watching. Like and subscribe. Click that button up there. Toodle pip. I'll see you later. I'm going with Arman by 4th round TKO, I reckon. See you later. Goodbye.